back, everyone, to the SMITE Summer Masters, of course, powered by Prime Gaming. Now, for those of you out there who don't know what Prime Gaming is, well, first off, you've been living under a rock, man. Come on. We've been talking about it for a while because it is one of the best things that you can sign up for to be a member for. You're going to get free Twitch subscription once a month to your favorite channel that you get to choose wherever it goes. And trust me, I've been there. You're watching someone, some ads come on, you just hit that free Twitch sub and then refresh the page, you're set, and you move on. You also get free games, free in-game content, as well as all of the other fantastic stuff that you get from a standard Prime membership, like your free deliveries, your shipping, or your movies, your music, etc., etc., etc. All of that. If you are already a Prime member, you can click on that crown and start taking advantage of all of those things. If you're not, then you want to make sure you sign up now and start getting in on these, because you're getting a lot of games. Trust me, I legitimately have a game library that I don't think I will ever get through because of how many free games I have now gotten. It's August. You're going to get some new games here, and then, of course, again, at the first of every single month. So thanks for Prime Gaming for sticking with us and being the title sponsor here in Season 9 of the SBL. It's Gormizer, and I got Mifflin hanging out with me on the desk, man. I like what you've done, being, flowered up. It's going to be a fun day so far, right? I mean, 2-0s, but SBL level play always makes things enticing. Now we get the Dragons, the Warriors. Dragons, we've talked about it a lot lately, but having Scream on there feels like a good time to start peaking right around Masters. Warriors, kind of the opposite, right? When you're coming down to it, it has not been the best last of the phase. Came into this week, got a win to break like a 6-win loss streak, or a 6 loss streak. But now the question is whether or not they can take it back over to the Dragons here as we look at the schedule. And of course, the bracket for this group, the teams that they will be playing. As just mentioned, we're going to be watching the Dragons, the Warriors. A little bit later, the Leviathans will take on the Titans. A World's Finals rematch again between these two teams. They always seem to find each other in these brackets, and I don't know how they do it. Even seeding-wise, put them here. We'll get to watch how that one shakes out. And again, Mifflin, these groups have been very interesting. The Warriors find their win a couple of days ago. The Dragons, I think, look solid in theirs, but they've looked solid since their roster swap. And so these are two formidable teams to have to go up against, and for each of them to take the other on. We've got kind of two things working against each other here. We've got the Warriors, who have been, I want to say, a little bit on a loss streak. And unfortunately for the Dragons, they're wearing the MVP crown. And admittedly, they broke the streak. It was a 10-set loss streak for the crown, but they got that win against the Sages, and it's at a Masters event, counts. They get that dub, and so that takes that away. But how well does it fare against maybe other SBL teams? That one remains to be seen here. That's actually fineokay, who's your MVP coming into Masters from week number 8. Loser of this one will go up against the Ravens, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, to recontextualize it, I suppose you could say that the Crown has got a 10-loss streak up against the SPL exclusively.
Yeah.
But otherwise, maybe not consecutive.
It plays into the heavy is the head that wears the crown, right? Like it's too much weight to try and perform that well twice in a row, right?
It's like Thor's hammer. Some people are just anointed to have crowns.
Yeah. So well, I guess Zap at this point, 3-time back-to-back-to-back, he's just meant to be a winner.
No, he gets rings. He doesn't get
He gets wings. He doesn't get crowns. Well,
yeah,
and that
hammer lifts.
So he's good at getting the hammer. Crowns not so much. We'll have to see whether fineokay can keep up this streak for them, because that's actually I think the fun of this one. Again, looking at these two teams, the solo laners. It's actually been a while. Look, when you're talking about the Dragons, honestly, if you're talking about the Warriors, Qvo and Scream at this point have kind of been the talk of the town. But I think it is very fun to be able to jump in, not just look at fineokay, again, the MVP, but this guy that's on your screen. Nika, again, it's been a while since I feel like we've gotten to talk about him specifically, but there was a period of time where Nika was the Warriors. Like, if they were winning, Nika just had a really good game.
Yeah, and recently the Oni Warriors haven't been winning a whole lot. I'm not going to lay that at the feet at Nika. I think that recently, before that, the team as a whole had been performing very, very well. Otherwise, seems like some of these meta changes have been slow on the uptake for the Oni Warriors. But they've had some time now during this Masters event to study up on what the other SPL teams are doing. If they want to adapt to some of this FCC style play, they absolutely can. Maybe some of these more eclectic picks that seem to have been working explicitly for the EU SEC, things like the Baba Yaga. Maybe the Oni Warriors are capable of playing that style of God. Because when you think about it, what is Hera really doing for herself? One of Dardez's favorite picks. Whole lot of damage, maybe some slight self-peel. That's essentially Baba Yaga's playstyle through and through, except you get a leap on top of it. So maybe the Oni Warriors are going to take a play out of the SCC's book. Otherwise, I think they've got a pretty stacked matchup up against the Jade Dragons, and you're right to say that QvoFred and Nika are going to have to be some keystones to success for this team. I'm thinking the Jade Dragons in the most recent of their sets have been really, really leaning into this, hey, we're going to run you down. Jazzberry Jam. They're back to it. No longer is it the days of, okay, maybe we're playing early, maybe we're playing late. It is a whole lot of early action. The Oni Warriors can either try and meet them there, or maybe they try and slate it for late game and try and withstand that storm.
I'm making a face because I don't know if I just heard this right. So naturally, we have an interview with the Oni Warriors ready for you so you can hear about them. But if I heard this correctly, we've got Jithens in the booth right now to talk to him.
Hello, Jithens here, and I'm here with the Oni Warriors for an interview. So I'm gonna be asking the hard-hitting question. So, Vo, what's your favorite kind of chocolate?
I mean, just milk chocolate. Just regular milk chocolate. Yeah.
All right, well, that's the wrong answer. White chocolate is much better. All right. What do you think about dehydrated grapes?
I don't really like raisins, honestly. I don't know, like, grapes are nice. Like, why ruin a good thing?
Psychopath. You're right. He's a psychopath, right?
Yes. I live with him. He's a psychopath.
Unreal. Oh, my goodness. All right. What's your favorite type of drink?
Oh, type of drink?
Yeah.
Alcohol, of course.
So, Nika.
First of all, happy birthday, man.
It's not my birthday, but
Oh, okay.
yeah. What do you think about your 6.5 KDA?
It's pretty good, isn't it? Yeah, it'll look pretty good in those highlights.
Yeah, it
Keep it up.
yeah. Good luck. Enjoy. Are you gonna punch this chair? I'm kind of concerned.
I'm good. And happy birthday as well.
Oh, thanks. Not my birthday. Well, that's it for me. So, Gore, take it back. Enjoy. Have a good time.
The hard-hitting questions there by Jithens. I have to admit, I don't know what he expected when he asked Dardez about his drink. Maybe he was expecting like water or someone to believe in his like.
Oh, the camera.
Well, I was thinking of his weird ways of like not drinking water.
He doesn't drink
whatsoever.
water. Yeah, that's
that's
his
not
thing.
a bit. That's actually just genuine. Like he does not drink water, and as someone who drinks exclusively water outside of like fun times.
Yeah, you also the Dardez drinks.
Yeah. Also, the Dardez drinks. You're right. I mean, just trying to skirt around. What's the PG-13? Anything that you would fill a coconut with feels like it's going to be really good. On the other side, I don't know if I've had coconut water, actually. Maybe that's something to try after we talk about the Dragons here. And, of course, the team that they're going to be going up against. Look, Scream's been the talk of the town, and I'm tired of it. So we're not going to talk about him. We're going to talk about fineokay.
I can't talk about Scream?
No, you can talk about
I have
Scream.
so many notes about Scream.
Oh, well, good. The good news is you can talk about him and maybe his synergy with fineokay, who's on the screen.
I feel like you want me to talk about fineokay. I didn't have any notes about Scream. I have notes about the entirety of the team. Jade Dragons, I think, are a squad that were once a bit more adaptable in their approach to the match. We were saying, okay, well, they'll take it to the late if they have to. They'll draft those late game compositions. Or if they really, really want to, they can also just run that bully style throughout the early. In the last month or so, ever since Scream was an acquisition for this team, I think that they have narrowed their style, rightfully so. Anytime you have a substitution in your roster, especially one that is as integral to your communication and the pacing of the match as a jungler, I think it is right to figure out one thing that works for you and make sure that's honed and up to snuff, and then you can start working on the rest of your playstyle. And what they have decided to completely lean into is exactly what Scream does. He was doing it for the Solar Scares. He's been doing it for the Jade Dragons. It's a whole lot of early game presence. He'll be 0-7 if he thinks the team needs that. He'll be 10-0 if he's having a really good day. And the rest of the Jade Dragons are built around that. They draft pressure in the short lane. They draft pressure in the long lane. They draft whatever they want for Pegon, generally just a counter pick selection. Recently, a little bit less so. We haven't been seeing the Susanos and the Gilgameshes nearly as much. But what it has been is just a whole lot of Jazzberry jamming. And I think that's really exciting SMITE to watch. But it can cost you. Some of these teams have been expressing to me, especially the European SEC teams, how are people losing to all this early game pressure? If you know it's coming, just buckle down. Get ready. Well, the Jade Dragon's so good that even if you know a punch is coming, if you're not fast enough to dodge it, you're probably just going to get hit.
Well, I was going to ask you about their specific masters so far, KDAs. The 6.5 for Nika, the 5.5 for fineokay. At 1.0 makes a big difference there. Gear long, though, 2.6 there for Nika. 3.2, well, we'll round that down just to the 3.2. I'm not going to give that 4 the respect that it deserves there for fineokay. A lot of kills, I think, coming out of these guys, and a lot of the highlights you got to see, like GPM's very similar, average damage maybe a little higher for fineokay. I'm going to blame that on the King Arthur, because that's what he's been playing a little bit lately. And so we'll figure out if he's going to play it later as we get into picks and bans for game number 1. The Warriors taking on the Dragons here. And again, that one's maybe the most important. A lot of what we've been seeing lately is some support pickup, and then like King Arthur Cupid picked up for and most of the time that's been the Dragons. If they're in second pick, their top 2 has just been King Arthur Cupid, King Arthur Cupid, to the point where 7 games in a row for fineokay was the King Arthur. Like 5 of those were PandaCat on Cupid. Seems like the Warriors are going to take it away, so we're not even going to have to worry about it. But that's something like that. That's mad respect to get a King Arthur ban this early on, just to make sure that fineokay doesn't play it.
Well, we have seen the King Arthur taken away from fineokay once or twice in the last month or so, and generally it's a fallback towards things like Cucullen. He had branded Cucullen the off-brand King Arthur, does similar things, gets in your face, does a whole lot of damage, generally a lane bully as well. So we'll see if he's willing to pick it up early on in the draft. Wonder if the Oni Warriors from first pick, if it gets back to them, whether or not they'd be willing to take the Cucullen for themselves. We'll be able to evaluate that as the match gets on. Surprised to see this, though. I was thinking it's either going to be Chernobog, maybe a Cupid in that first slot. Yemoja still incredibly strong. Instead, it's Khepri locked in. One of PBM's favorite picks as of recent, as is Genetics. He's been really digging this pick. Has decent pressure in lane, but it's really about that survivability. And then the Jade Dragons throw me for an even further loop. I mean, both gods of the Jade Dragons have been playing pretty consistently recently, but not 2 that I'd expect to see this high up in the draft.
Yeah, I mean, you had been mentioning you had mentioned the Cucullen, you had mentioned Cupid. We have talked about a lot of priority Chernobog, like a lot of priority gods out there. Discordia Pele locked in by the
that's
Dragons.
gross.
Hunbats the Morrigan locked inside or beside this Khepri. Now, with Daji missing, I mean, that's been like the go-to. Like, if the Warriors get a Daji, they're going to blank you. And so that has been one that is interesting. And just the confusion continuing here for Mifflin. Heimdall locked in by the Dragons.
Yeah, look, I mean, Hunbots is just fine if you're going to the late game. His ultimate is one of the best initiation tools in Smite, full stop. Fear no evil, reapplying CC consistently is just so powerful. And with the Morrigan, the potential to have 2 of them can be so disruptive. We talk about how Hunbots might struggle if he's the only beads burner on his team, and with Khepri being a single target, mix it up. CC style of Guardian, generally it is up to the Hunbots to burn that CC. Now you've got the Morrigan, who could just be a secondary bots for your team, which means that someone's going to be making use of those burnt beads. But
this shall be a day long
these
remembered.
drafts, man, have got me guessing. Like, Chernobog's still good, I promise. Like, Lancelot's something that we would have expected to get picked a little bit earlier on. Yemoja goes ignored throughout the first phase. Just absolutely wild. And they're picking so quick at that. So that makes me
this is one of the fastest drafts, by the way.
That makes me think that both of these teams have got compositions that they've practiced for. And considering how unorthodox the pick order is, not even evaluating the individual picks themselves, it might make it difficult to figure out what the bands need to be against each other. Achilles, I suppose, counter matchup into the Khepri. You've got the Execute to deal with that revive. Heimdall, very safe, so you can kind of leave him alone on an island and have this Pele focus her attentions elsewhere. But throughout this entire week, some of the most Smite we've casted in a singular week, you'd expect a meta to start to develop, and these guys have just ignored it.
I mean, just an absolute loop. And you know, so when the Achilles got locked in, you might have heard I said, oh no. And that's because I was having flashbacks. I don't know if anyone remembers the jungle Achilles that I'm going to say plagued the league for like 3 weeks there. People kept locking it in, and it kept losing. There were hardly any games where it won.
Well, they won't.
But with
they
the
won't
Pele
release
here,
new jungles, man. We just got to figure something out.
You gotta make our own new jungle. But with Pele here, that feels like it's going to be fineokay on the Achilles, right? This feels like an Achilles Bologna lane, or we're getting something really weird out of the team. Either way, I think this is something that at least gives them that execute available. Mifflin, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not used to being able to talk a full draft at this point. Like, I've barely been able to catch up on the fact that Bologna and Chernobog were locked in there for the Warriors. Terra just now finalizes the draft for the Dragons. And what a wild ride that was. I mean, like, hardly time to think between picks getting locked in. For us, I don't know how they did it. They did it so fast.
Yeah, just gotta think it's something they've strategized for. But I would be remiss if I don't bring up the fact that Pele does have potential to go solo. It's similar in execution to things like Cleana solo. You just get that soul eater very early on. You become a sustained tank for your team. And that would allow the Achilles to get active on the map near that Khepri sooner. You want the Fatal Strike available for the Scarab's Blessing. It would make sense to put him in the jungle in that situation. Both Pele and Achilles all right into Bologna. You've got ways to deal with the bludgeon either way. I think largely standard. We can't expect the Pele to go jungle. We know Scream loves to play this pick, so I'm just playing the field, you know, just making sure we get everything out of the way here on the desk.
Bases covered.
Otherwise, I mean, the compositions themselves aren't crazy. These are largely standard comps, but generally these are comps that you're forced into once like the meta's been banned out. But the meta was available. They just chose not to take it.
Yeah, it's Yemoja got banned in the second phase of things. She didn't get picked up in the top 6.
So did Lancelot and Cupid.
By either of these. Like, I mean, at least Khepri on one side makes a little more sense. But waiting that long, I'm impressed from the Dragons. Kukulkan as well banned out there towards the end, so that kind of limited that one from being picked up. Which, good news for fineokay fans. You get to see something that's not just King Arthur Kukulkan this
good
time
news
around.
for fineokay, too. I think he's been pretty upset having to play the king.
Yeah, man, I guess I'll lock in King Arthur again. Yeah, so it's a lot of fun, but I guess if you go top tier, and you're just maybe looking at quote-unquote S+ gods, like the Pele up there, the Discordia who's been up there, but you get the Chernobog, you get the Morgan, you get the Khepri on the side of the Warriors. Feels like they've definitely got a lot of teamfight. I mean, theoretically, you've got either 2 Scarab's Blessings or 2 Fear No Evils. That's kind of nuts.
2 Chernobogs, that's good as well. It is worth noting that Terra's got really, really good matchup into Hun bots. That Earthen Fury always going to proc the heal. Fear No Evil being dot damage means that you're always going to get that value from it. So that was one of the old matchups. Back in the box days, we'd always pick the large circle ultimates because moving the sticks is hard. Terra was the counter. Like I was rocking Hunbots every game. So that is a very annoying matchup, especially early on. Hunbots being a bit older in the assassin tree has got slightly less damage overall, but maybe more utility to make up for it, which means that that additional healing that Terra affords her team makes a god who's got relatively weaker burst, even weaker in the burst department.
Well, the drafts came by fast, which means we get into game fast. It's the Warriors and the Dragons, and it's J-Mac and Trelly for game number 1.
Yeah, thank you so much. Our third set of the day. We've already sent 2 SPL teams into week number 2 of play, and the winner of this set will join them. Those being Camelot Kings and the Olympus Bolts. So will it be the Dragons? Will it be the Warriors? J-Mac, Trelly, and Doug here for game number 1 of this best of 3 set. And the Oni Warriors finally able to break their losing streak they had earlier on into the week, found a win over the SCC teams. And a team that's kind of been on a little bit of a downward trend as of recent. Trelly, Jade Dragons have been the opposite. It's been nothing but uphill for these guys ever since they brought Scream over into their roster. Went now 8 straight games without a single loss. We'll see if the Oni Warriors can be the team to deliver that first L to them.
Yeah, a little bit of a talk in the town was that this is the honeymoon phase, right? When you get a new roster, in this case just a new jungler, everything starts clicking. But you know, in the interviews we've heard things saying, you know, things about in the grapevine, just you know that this could go away eventually. And I don't know. This is a good draft from the Oni Warriors to do just that. Double Hoonbat's a composition that is extremely disruptive if you can play it correctly. And the Morgan having a great matchup into Discordia. Anytime that golden apple comes through, you can essentially just negate it and turn into someone else, and then you can go in and not too much escape possibilities there in the 1v1. I think a lot of weight here on Dardez, as well as the fact that it has the access to the Chernobog ult as well. They've got a lot of global presence. It really just depends on where the Oni Warriors are trying to use that presence, and if Dardez can make the most out of this pick.
I wonder what Mike will go first relic, because he hasn't picked one up. He's the only player on the map who hasn't just yet. Now, when I see a Hunbats on the enemy team, even as a support, I'm sitting there thinking to myself, man, I don't got CC me. I don't want to get caught, and neither does QvoFred. So he'll get his second ability to jump away. Nika still willing to battle into Scream and fineokay. But I'm curious if PolarBearMike will go with something a little bit more, quote-unquote, selfish by picking up beads or maybe find something for the rest of the team for his relic.
Yeah, it's possible he was scouting for something like a horrific emblem, you know, just saying like, okay, I'll pick up sprint if that comes through. If not, I will just get the safe beads or something like that to help out with the team. Mike has plenty of time to figure it out because it's not level 5 yet, right? He's able to back up whenever need be. before that aggression can come over towards that lane. You should be sitting just fine. I think Mike also saw, hey, I'm up against Khepri and Chernobog. That's not too much early damage. I'll probably won't put myself out of position as long as I hold on to that double dash. So I think a smart call there just to scout for the relics. And something that we don't see too often anymore. But you're up against a Cursed Onk, which I know the desk already highlighted. There's a fair bit of healing here for the Jade Dragons. Even fineokay going into that Soul Eater start. So anti-heal gonna have to be something that the Oni Warriors prioritize, and it's good that Neil already has that Onk in play.
Starting it out early, we'll see if Dardez elects towards any kind of anti-heal of his own. QvoFred can very easily slot something like a Brawler Speed Stick into the build. It's just a matter of how much anti-heal do you really go for, because as far as team-wide healing, it's only PBM on that Terra. Other than that, it's individual self-sustain from Screammmmm, fineokay, if Pegon gets any kind of lifesteal into his build. Same with PandaCat over on the Hunter. But a slow roll to start things out, a little bit of action around the Totem of Ku, but that's kind of become the norm now, is seeing that right side 2v2 as compared to what we used to see more often than not, Charlie, was the mid 2v2.
Yeah, the solo laners are so strong to fight through. I think Totem of Ku has been slept on for a bit. The MP5 has been coming back into favor. You want to make sure you're able to confirm that at level 2. It's one of the biggest, because that just means your mid laner doesn't have to back up as early. You can get a stacking item online. In this case, Dardez is probably going for that do more, but of course Pegon would love to get that Warlock staff early on and start stacking immediately. So I think very smart to put some pressure over towards that right lane. But whenever the Jade Dragons are in question, you always got to bring up Screammm's ability to find some early pressure on this Pele. Doesn't have access to Volcanic Lightning just yet, but when that does come through, a possible fight opportunity. It really just depends on where you're putting that pressure. In the duo lane, you can see, I mean, Vote and Neil are not stepping up at all. They are at that tower line more often than not and not going too much further. So duo lane's going to be a hard sell, but Dardez could always be susceptible, right? I mean, the beads is your one safety until you can transform into someone, and of course, if that ult gets forced out, definitely could get aggressive like this.
Gonna need to force it out now. There's that Volcanic Lightning and a Golden Apple as well, but that transformation, something that we kind of talked a little bit about right before the game came through. A great matchup for Dardez into this god, removes that apple with the transform, gets out, saves his life.
Yeah, it's like the matchup into Circuit as well. Whenever you get bit, whenever you get an ability like that on, you can just transform. It gets cleansed and you can immune that damage. I think Pegon wanted to be able to burst beforehand, but what they did do was force the ultimate out of Dardez, and that's going to be a long cooldown. It's possible that more aggression could be sent towards the mid lane now. Unfortunately, Screammmmm did use that Volcanic Lightning to force out that ability, so now Qvo could try to get aggressive.
Good. Qvo doesn't want to take
Nope,
that fight.
I thought he might want to, but
yeah,
I
I
guess
mean,
not.
level 5 on Qvo, I guess beads are up for Screammmmm, maybe not wanting to use an ultimate into a relic, but if you're not going to use it now, and maybe you've got advantage, what time do you use it? Or maybe he's just waiting on some cooldown reduction to kind of have a lower bit of that one for him, but QvoFred not willing to take that fight early on. And the farm game goes slightly over to Screammmmm, tipped over to level 6 just before QvoFred has.
Yeah, the gold is extremely even given the fact that we haven't seen too much fighting. PBM actually did back up and grab a Cursed Onk for themselves, so now anti-heal being prioritized for both sides. There's not too much to deal with, but you might just be worrying about transformations and things like that. I think you're just hoping to get value out of shutting down the small bits of healing and HP5 throughout that you don't want to deal with. And if you're looking at the builds on the left side of the map, I was expecting the Brawlers from Qvo early on. He did go for the Jotun's Wrath, though, and Fear No Evil, one of those cooldowns that you want to have, as always, right? Whenever you're going in, you better have your ultimate. Honbat's extremely useless early on. I mean, late game, Sacred Monkey Toss with some hi-rez autos, of course, is going to swing, but you want to make sure that ult is up more often than not, so Qvo prioritizing that CDR before some anti-heal.
At least, to be honest, not an insane amount of healing early on from Terra. You're not typically leaving the Monolith out for any kind of extra healing. It's mostly going to be the burst from that ultimate, so we'll see if QvoFred does pick up some of that extra anti-heal in the kit. But now, you're talking about how for Screammmmm it's a difficult task to go over and vote the to gank the duo lane, to even really try and get anything over in the soul lane might be difficult for him. But for QvoFred, I mean, Charlie, what's some good options for QvoFred to try and get active early on?
I mean, Qvo just needs to find some beads down. Anyone that can force some sort of beads, then Qvo can go over and try and get active. It seems like fineokay could have been a good target because there's just no relic available that's going to help him get out of trouble. However, that Fatal Strike, if timed properly, is going to get you out of trouble more often than not. Unless you can time it with Eagle's Rally, there's just no reason to fight over in this solo lane either. Nika has been having some pressure, as I think a Bologna should, up against an Achilles in the early. But really no reason to overcommit, especially when you don't know when Scream is. I think Pele, one of the better characters in the game at re-ganking. You can just move across the map so quickly, wait for some abilities to be down, some leaps, some ults, and then zoom in for the cleanup. Scream usually starts the fight, but he's got no problem cleaning up after the fact at a botched gank.
And normally the Jade Dragons, as of recent, have been a much more early-centric scrap style of team, but we haven't really seen that just yet. A couple, at least a near miss early on in the game at the totem at that level 2 point, but ever since then, haven't really been seeing much of the fights going on. We saw one little skirmish in mid. That one ended up being a washout. It was 2 ultimates for the one on Dardez, but no pressure has been put really on any of these lanes. We do see PBM going for totem steals, or at least for some obelisk stuff, and that will maybe catch Vote out of position. A pull back by NeilMah, and Scream will immediately beads, and maybe that can open up a target for QvoFred.
Yeah, I was seeing the Jade Dragons start to get aggressive towards the buff, but then they saw the obelisk and decided to go for that. Could be the purple buff invade, and it will be able to go down. Here comes the ult.
But the Fear No Evil is a little off the mark. Scream is still batting away at Vote, but then he's going to get pulled back in by NeilMah. And Vote will find the first blood of the fight. PandaCat gets through the Bifrost. PBM left alone, the golden apple off the mark, but it's just enough damage from PandaCat and Pegon to make it a 1-for-1 trade.
Yeah, Vote's able to get the first blood, but PandaCat answers back. Both of these ADCs have a kill for themselves, and the gold lead extremely even after that. I mean, you know, the Jade Dragons were pulling ahead a little bit, lose out on the first blood bounty, but besides that, pretty much evened up the gold department, and now it's really just the XP. When you're looking across the board, Pegon does have a level in mid, PBM also has a level. That's pretty much the only difference throughout the map thus far, but that was a great aggressive fight at the purple buff, and now after taking a look at the relics, the Oni Warriors might have a chance to answer back because Qvo prioritized this CDR for a reason. Fear No Evil will be up before Scream's beads are back up, definitely before PandaCat's beads are back up, and I mean, PBM could just be a great target throughout. I mean, went for that Curse Donk as we mentioned. As long as there's some other damage dealers around Qvo with that Fear No Evil, Terra could certainly be bursted through as well.
So we did see our first real fight of the game over in the duo lane. 1-for-1 trade between those. And with it, it's the Jade Dragons who are on top in gold despite the first blood. Going over to the Oni Warriors, about a 500 gold lead for the Dragons right now. Where will that extra pressure come from? We did see Pegon stuck around and got that one wave before the rotation, so he's got a little bit of an XP lead of his own. Warlock Staff and Staff Mirrodin has kind of become just the common first 2 items for so many of the mages. Not every mage, but it has kind of become the core starter items, at least for most of these magic damage dealers.
Yeah, you're trying to get online as quickly as possible. I think Warlock's just, it makes you so survivable as well as giving you a ton of damage, a hybrid item in that sense, and as long as you're able to stack it up quickly, you just get tons of value. So I don't think this item's going anywhere in its current state as long as these mages can stack it up as quickly as possible. Of course, Dardez really doesn't have to use anything like that because you can always just transform into a tank if you need to be survivable. I think the Morgan, one of the more niche builds in the meta at the moment where you're always going something like the Polynomicon. You can swat in some flat pen items as well. It's just, you can always build pretty much whatever you want because even if your build's not as great as you would like, as long as you're surviving and getting these transformations off, that's really where the Morgan's able to benefit. But given it's past 10 minutes, Pyromancer has been opened up. We would love to see some aggression show towards that objective. I understand not wanting to pull Gold Fury without a massive lead, but Pyro could be burnt down extremely quickly. You got to look at the solo laners when these objects do come up, because whoever's got pressure in this lane can easily rotate over, help with a little bit extra DPS. If you're still stuck on the wave, the other team could easily grab that from under your nose.
It's actually funny enough, Charlie, that the team that, or at least the support that's going against the team with no direct healers is the one who upgraded the Curse Donk first. PolarBearMike fully upgrading his relic before even NeilMah has. And NeilMah will be able to get away from at least the double CC coming out from the Dragons. But there's the Pyromancer call that you were going towards. Don't need the solo laners over there. Or maybe you do. QvoFred drops the Fear No Evil just in time to keep PBM away. But now that ultimate is down, and QvoFred doesn't have an avenue out. Will get a Scare's Blessing, and that will pop and bring him right back into the middle of now 3 Eagles rally from Nika, but it's not far enough for QvoFred to go, but it'll be a 1-for-1 trade as Dardez has a Fear No Evil of his own right into the backline to fight up against Pegon The 1v1 of the mid lane is about to turn into 2 as PandaCat has rotated over and Dardez has nowhere to go, stuck in the Fire Giant pit and punched down by PandaCat.
Yeah, the Jade Dragons are going to grab 3 there with only 1 answering back for the Oni Warriors. However, the Oni Warriors were able to confirm that Pyromancer with a great Fear No Evil from Qvo. The unfortunate truth is if you're using one of the best teamfight ultimates in the game to confirm the objective, the fight after the fact is not going to go in your favor, even if Dardez also brought one. It's just not enough. So the Jade Dragons are losing that Pyromancer, but they gained plenty of gold back in the process and actually had the lead for themselves as well. I was wanting to see that aggressive play onto the Pyro, but the Jade Dragons, they had the vision as well. They were not letting that one sneak by. At least Mike was showing face and saying, hey, we can chase this down. And a great answer by Scream as well. It seemed like Qvo, with the Scarab's Blessing, was going to be able to leap over the wall. Volcanic Lightning, easy chase down, and Scream was able to clean that one up as well.
Picks up a kill for himself, picks up 2 for PandaCat during that fight. Even fineokay keeping himself on the board as well. So Jade Dragons up 4-2. PandaCat picked up 1 during it. He got his other kill during the purple buff skirmish earlier on in the game. But gold hasn't really gone anywhere, even with that spike up from the Pyromancer. The 3 kills after by the Jade Dragons kind of evens everything out, even in experience. Only about a half level here and there in a couple of different roles. So for all intents and purposes, Charlie, this game still sitting dead even despite the kill lead going to the Dragons.
Yeah, and I think the real tell will be a fight at the Gold Fury when that will come through, or at least a fight before the Gold Fury. If you're looking at Relic's situation, I do think the Jade Dragons are in a pretty favorable position here. Scream was already able to pick up the Blink at level 12, whereas Qvo would love a beat, some form of safety. Oracles go down to the Jade Dragons, and they're dancing around this objective. They would love to make a pull onto the Fury, and actually PandaCat will start DPing Eset, so Qvo has to turn around.
Maybe a pick onto NeilMah if he steps too far forward. But 2 more of the Oni Warriors have shown face. Vote even expends his ultimate, but Scream goes right onto QvoFred. A Scarab's Blessing will get Qvo out, but that is a massive team fight ult once again down for the Oni Warriors. They still have Dardez if they need a second one.
Yeah, they traded ults there, but Vote used the Nightmare just to get some vision on that Fury, as well as Scarab's Blessing being down. Jade Dragons are certainly in a favorable position, but they aren't pulling immediately. If fineokay was able to back teleport over, I think the Gold Fury would be a decent call to make, but with the Trebuchet being here, I think fineokay would much rather get some damage onto that tower. We're seeing a little bit of a skirmish in mid, but we already touched on it. A lot of ultimates were used towards that Gold Fury, and since it wasn't pulled, not too much is going to happen after the fact. And again, Vote has been vastly pushed underneath this tower. We saw a bit ago, PandaCat was throwing out some taunts there. Would love to fight. One of the more aggressive ADCs in the league. PandaCat never won to stray away from taking a 1v1. But in this matchup, Heimdall versus Chernobog, I'm definitely giving that trade to Heimdall.
Fear No Evil gets beads and Aegis from Pegon. Turns around for the Golden Apple to hit QvoFred. But the dot is enough to take down the mid laner of the Dragon. Scream goes in to try and turn this back around, but instead the fight is turned on to him. Double kill for Dardez. Can they make it a third? No, PBM squashes those dreams instantly, gets a kill onto Qvo, and at least pulls up 1 in that team fight.
Yeah, that was a beautiful pre-beads by Dardez there. Did everything that he needed to make sure that 1v1 versus Scream goes down. Honestly, I don't know where Scream thought his damage was going, because all it took was the Dark Omen into the explosion damage there, and Pele goes home. Good job on PBM at least confirming 1 kill there, so not entirely in favor of the Oni Warriors, but getting double relics onto Pegon as well as that kill could have been disastrous without another pick answered back. Gold lead, as you just saw, not going to be too outrageous. The Jade Dragons still a little bit in the lead. I'm just waiting to see when these solo laners are actually going to get active because, you know, teleport available for both. They just keep teleporting back to lane, right? It's going to be on cooldown for a couple minutes now. No one's heading over towards that Gold Fury. You know, Nika and fineokay perfectly fine just brawling in this lane rather than helping out their team. Once these solo laners do get active, that's when I'm going to see a full commitment to the objective. Pyromancer's about to spawn back in, and it looks like Gold Fury will once again go unchecked.
There's a flat line on the gold at the very least. I mean, it has not moved above like 600 for either team in 16 minutes of play. A very close-knit early game for both of these squads, but the early game is going to be this close, then how will the late game look for both these teams? You look on one side, as you highlighted earlier on into the game, as the desk has talked about, double Fear No Evil between Qvo and Dardez. If Dardez makes that transformation, could get a Terra of their own if Dardez wants to get some healing. For the Jade Dragons, once we get to these late game fights, once we get past this Pyromancer, which won't even get finished, Scream even ulting to get out just because of the fear of 3 players.
The fear of the no evil.
The fear of, no, that's the fear of the evil. You're not supposed to, you're fearing no evil, but that time he got feared because of the evil. That is QvoFred.
Yeah, he was definitely afraid of the ultimate coming through, and that's why that ult came through. And it looks like the Oni Warriors were able to pick up that Pyromancer and once again push that gold lead closer to being even. It's about even at this point. In one way or another, it's going to be the same. However, PBM went over to Gold Fury immediately just to make sure that nothing else was happening on that left side of the map. Not too many wards down all around the Fury, and Oracles have spawned in as well. You would love to see some vision on this objective before a pull gets made. This is about the time when I would expect, you know, some rotations over from fineokay or from Nika, because the game has been extremely even up until a point where a Gold Fury fight could break out. NeilMah, I was waiting to see if maybe a pluck could happen there, but Vote doesn't have too much damage online, has a ton of penetration. Went for the Dominance, the Kin Size, and the Silver Branch. That's not going to be burning down anyone shortly. It's more so just a sustained shred onto these tanks. I think that's why PBM was just making sure to stay safe in a situation like that.
Teleport from Qvo. Dash out from PBM will make sure that that fight ends. That opens up a red buff on one side and some damage into the mid lane. Pegon gets jumped on by Dardez. Aegis and Beads are gone, but now Scream has re-entered the fray. Dardez gets revived by NeilMah, and he doesn't get very far. Scream puts down Bo, but QvoFred has now joined the fight himself. Fear that we will put Scream in the wall and into the dirt. A 1-for-2 trade so far, but now with 3 for PandaCat, it is all uphill for the Jade Dragons.
Jade Dragons win that fight handily. What will they do after the fact? All would start with a decent gank by Dardez and Vote, but they traded the apple back and forth. They weren't able to find the kill, and then Qvo had to dive deep just to make sure that Scream actually went down. Pegon lives, used double relics perfectly, as we know that Pegon's able to make plays like that. And I'm expecting the grouping to happen over at the goal for. They are pathing that way, so finally we will see the Jade Dragons go for a call. NeilMah and Nika are here. There is a fair bit of steal potential, but it's not going to be easy to step up through Mike and fineokay.
They are going to try and be the stone wall that this team needs.
That's it.
And they've got literal walls.
They have literal
keep
stone
people
walls.
out. And that should be enough time for the Gold Fury to go over. The Oni Warriors just have to watch as the silhouette of it fades away on the map. The sound effect goes through. The Jade Dragons get the Gold Fury and the first significant gold lead of the game. 3,500 gold up for themselves. And this Trebuchet to push down the mid-tier 1. Shouldn't be able to take too much more of the tower's HP since Dardez and Neil are right on top of it. But the Jade Dragons, perfect at this kind of counter-punch play that the Oni Warriors are trying to fight into them with.
Oh yeah, that's a wake-up call for the Oni Warriors. No longer do I expect to see any forced engagements. I want Vote in that left lane, pushing up the tower line, and split pushing whenever necessary. Try and hit level 20 as quickly as possible. We see that PandaCat's already 4-0, about to be level 20 on this Heimdall. Vote has to be able to match that DPS in these team fights. And actually, PandaCat is still being able to bully in this lane with that kill lead, with that extra gold in hand. You can see how much the build is being able to affect Vote in that lane. But, you know, just farming for late game, not trying to get too aggressive. I say that, but NeilMah is in the enemy jungle just crawling around, trying to find and abduct, trying to get aggressive. It just doesn't seem like the itemization is there for the Oni Warriors to make plays like this, but the map, since Scream is in base, is working out for him.
Definitely trying to. Dardez gets cleansed by his support, the only reason he gets out of that ultimate.
Beautiful.
PBM doesn't find the stun, but finds the root on NeilMah. The golden apple will pop, and so will Neil's health bar go. PandaCat on a rampage this game. 5-0 for the carry of the Jade Dragons.
Yeah, Vote definitely needs to get out of here. In some trouble. Does have the Nightmare to stall, but where do you go? It's got to be to Scream, and I don't know if you're winning this 1v1.
Well, Scream doesn't want to take it. Instead, we'll just back away from Vote. So Vote does get a live during that engagement. His tower will not, as there are 3 people, or at least the 2 carries on that side to deal with it. But now fineokay has come back over towards this mid lane where everybody else is. Jade Dragons, they find their 1 pick on the support. They find a tier 1 and maybe a tier 2 tower.
Yeah, they're looking at a tier 2 in left. Dardez has the double relics. Didn't have to use any sort of relic last time and has the ultimate available. We'll get the beats of PandaCat, but he's fighting this.
PandaCat is winning the trade because he's got Pegon alongside him. Dardez thinks twice about fighting the carry, and QvoFred will see the small Bifrost crystals out and knows that PandaCat is now too far gone to catch. The Jade Dragons get 2 towers and a kill for that fight.
Yeah, about 5,000 gold in favor of the Jade Dragons at the moment. And what a beautiful change of events. I mean, it wasn't like the Jade Dragons were behind, but it was just a small little fight where Dardez would have definitely died. NeilMah cleansed perfectly with that Scarab's Blessing. The beads were not available. Unfortunately, Neil dies for Dardez's troubles. And then they use that pressure, the Jade Dragons, to get 2 towers in the process. Now it's all towards the Fire Giant. Pyromancer has spawned back in, and we see PandaCat's not in left lane, right? He's not pushing up those minions any longer. He is ready to DPS this Fire Giant. Level 20, already upgraded the Leather's Cow. There's going to be a ton of damage coming from the Jade Dragons, and they're ready to make that call whenever need be. But it actually looks like PandaCat's more so looking at Nika in the right lane, just seeing if maybe the blown stepped up too far.
And it really just kind of feels like fineokay has been getting to these fights a little bit faster than Nika has, at least as of the last couple of them. Because of that extra body, that extra presence, fineokay is going to help make an impact for the team. PolarBearMike gets pulled in. Pegon has to deal with Dardez, but Dardez has to deal with 2 ultimates thrown to him. Preemptive beads, another Fear No Evil. Scream is just walking through all of this with all the CC immunity into his kit. He will find 1 kill amidst all of the danger. PBM tries to hold Vote out, but Pegon can't get in the fight because Nika is just dealing with both of the carries. He is under the tower, finds the kill under the tier 1, and maybe another one. Scream's got to stay far back away, and fineokay doesn't find the execute, but him and Scream should be able to pick up the kill on the solo.
Yeah, that's going to be the 1 for 2. Only Pegon drops. Now NeilMah was close as well and will fall down. Got sent the Nibelheim, and it looks like PandaCat laughs as he gets that kill and is heading over towards that Pyromancer. 6-0 on this Heimdall. Just hitting a late game ADC before your opposition just means that you can do so much more damage. fineokay is going to tank this one up, and it's all up to Vote to make a call. QvoFred is here. No fear, no evil. Not going to be up in time.
Vote's done. Vote loses beads. Fire Giant still being attacked by the Dragons. QvoFred doesn't have that ult for a few more seconds. He's trying to stall out as much time as he can. A few more till it's back, but he's not going to be able to get into the pit at this rate. He wants to pull the trigger, but he just doesn't have the finger ready to do so. And the Fire Giant will go to the Jade Dragons, and go ahead and throw the Pyromancer in as a bonus prize.
Yeah, now the Jade Dragons are able to go back right at perfect time for that Oni Fury to spawn in as well. Spend some gold from that 1 fight, get those last-minute power spikes, and then get ready to break the base. 2 tier 2 towers are still standing for the Dragons, and their siege is looking pretty clean. You do have Scarab's Blessing to deal with, but if fineokay is on point with the Fatal Strike, not going to be the biggest deal. Dardez would have loved to make a bigger impact in that fight. Did get some great damage onto Pegon to start it off, but it's not really able to get the DPS off because Scream just forced out that transformation early, and I think that's been the key here. If Dardez can actually make this ultimate into QvoFred, use the double Hoonbat's ult effectively, you know, the fight I think goes a lot better, but there's been so much pressure put onto the carries, Dardez specifically, that he really can't operate as a Morgan would love to. And I think that's been part of the reason that Jade Dragons were able to pull ahead in this match. Now it's time for that Oni Fury to go down. Nika is split pushing right, trying to hit level 20, trying to get that last minute power spike. But the Jade Dragons are going to go back one more time and spend up some gold before they start this siege.
Just wondering if maybe the Oni Warriors are having the same thought that I was for a moment, which is, why is PolarBearMike trying to monolith dash break at our purple buff at this point? And then we get a pan back and we see that the team is over at the Gold Fury, so that one goes over to the Jade Dragons. And that power play for the Fire Giant still has a couple minutes left of play onto it. So where will the Jade Dragons put their pressure? 2 tier 2 towers still standing for themselves. But the Dragons are grouping for the Phoenix first. Instead of trying to sweep the map of all structures, they're working towards probably the most important bird to take down.
I mean, they're feeling confident, as they should. They've been winning these fights pretty handily, only dropping 1 or 2 picks whenever, you know, a double Hoonbat's ult comes through. If they could bait out something, 1 ultimate, maybe the Oni Warriors, you know, would be able to just back up and give up this Phoenix. But it looks like fineokay and Scream will be able to grab that mid-tier 2. Pushing with those Oni Fire minions, or Oni minions rather. Definitely going to be a smart call. Try and split up the Oni Warriors. Scream blinks into the backline just to create some space.
Does get some damage on Dardez. 3 on the left side. Scream goes in, finds the knock-up on all 3 of them. And Eagles rally in by Nika. PandaCat teleports himself out. The Phoenix on its last feathers at the moment and will go down to the Jade Dragons. But it's only fineokay who continues his push forward and will immediately decide to back away with the rest of the squad. But a fresh minion wave in mid means the Jade Dragons can regroup for another bird.
Yeah, that's about what I expected. No picks go down, but you get that left side bird, and now it's time to try and defend this mid Phoenix. This is where the Oni Warriors would love to make a stop here. They only have Dardez's ult as a team fight presence, but Scarab's Blessing still is a tool that's available.
Vote ult as well, so if they need a little bit of extra CC, they can do so. But the Jade Dragons aren't concerned with fighting for the middle Phoenix any longer. They're going to make their way towards the right tier 2 and take that one away, because that Fire Giant buff fading away fast. And so the Jade Dragons will go ahead and take the last of the easier structures to grab for themselves, go back to base and buy up. So for the Oni Warriors, we see got a little glimpse as to how some of the Phoenix defense looks. Unfortunately for them, it kind of came with Scream wrapping all the way around. So what tools do the Warriors have when they get to that next true kind of 5v5 fight?
I don't think that went too terrible for the Oni Warriors. The gold lead was already about 10k, so that wasn't the biggest deal. Vote can pretty easily clear up those left side minions and ult in if need be, and of course Dardez could take position as well. So I don't think the left side fire minions are going to be the biggest deal. We can certainly see a 5v5 at this Fire Giant once it spawns back in. Not going to be enhanced. It won't wait that long unless some massive fight breaks out and the Fire Giant doesn't go down. So the Jade Dragons certainly in position to make a pull right away. But they are just going to sit back and make sure they're grouping up. This would be the time where the Oni Warriors sit in the jungle, you know, wait with a Hoonbat's, wait for a Fear No Evil just around the corner. And I think the Jade Dragons realize that. They're staying grouped as 5. Waiting for this objective to spawn back in. They realize that no one's clearing those left side fire minions, so there's no need to get too aggressive just yet.
While we have a bit of downtime, Charlie, I'm looking over at PBM's build, one of our new items. I think this is the first time that we are seeing this one, the Fae Blessed Hoops. Pick up by PBM. Gets a nice little heal, or if somebody dies around him, drops that extra little bit of a flower for a little bit of a shield. You think that could have an impact when these next fights start coming around, Charlie?
Yeah, it's one of those items where if you're just sitting there with some downtime, it certainly could be useful. But in the heat of a 5v5, when you got 2 Hoonbats ults popping off, I can't imagine the rest of the team's like, hey, pick up that flower, pick up that flower. You know, it's got to be more focused on DPS. Fire Giant touching down here in about 10 seconds. And actually Scream was scaring off Nika and Dardez. And the Jade Dragons, they're not on this objective. They're looking to fight.
They want the fight, and so does Nika, and so does QvoFred. PandaCat, beads are gone. Aegis has been expended. He'll have to ult his way out of the fight. Vote goes back into the backline, but fineokay and Scream have already found the first 2 picks. Vote will at least trade out for 1, but the execute doesn't land home for fineokay. He'll have to chase out Dardez, and so will Scream towards Vote. NeilMah on his last legs, on the last bit of HP, as Scream and Pegon find 2 in the backline. Dardez, the only one left alive, and the Jade Dragons can march right up the mid lane and take this game.
fineokay teleporting in to make sure to get there a little bit faster. Fire minions are already on this Titan, and it's up to Dardez with no ult and no relics. Even fineokay might be able to kill him.
Yeah, fineokay will just keep him pushed back in the tower. The Jade Dragons took him a little while, a slower first 20 minutes of the game. But once the team fights came through, the Jade Dragons come up big. Pegon finds 1 more, and the Dragons take game 1.
And the Oni Warriors were just not ready to sit by and play base defense one more time. They wanted to take the fight to the Dragons, felt confident. They actually did burst down PandaCat pretty quickly, but I think the relic usage there, as well as the fatal strike from fineokay negating that Scarab's Blessing, was just enough to make sure that fight didn't teeter in the other direction. You know, the seesaw was always in favor of the Jade Dragons. Scream also so fast on this Pele. Even when Dardez was able to sneak away with that movement speed, it just seemed like this Pele was chasing down everyone, making sure that no one got back home for that Titan defense.
And the Oni Warriors, they tried to force that last little team fight, and it worked out real well. I mean, they forced PandaCat so far back. Vote was able to dive into the back line and really try and get things going. Unfortunately, there's just too much sustain, too much damage out of the Jade Dragons, maybe slightly better grouping. So unfortunate for the Oni Warriors, this double Hunbats didn't quite work out as the way that they wanted to.
Yeah, I definitely thought that it was one of those compositions that would be hard to execute on. They found some picks with the Jade Dragons just played so clean. And at a 10k gold deficit, the fight in the jungle probably isn't going to go your way more often than not.
Tough game 1 for the Oni Warriors. We'll see if they're able to bounce back, or will the Jade Dragons sweep this one out. We'll come back for game 2 right after this break.
Hey, wait, what did it win?
You win the respect.
You're telling me an alien wore this?
Perfect. Okay.
Okay, that was a good cut.
Messaging him to mute.
The best graphics you really need
ultra, of course, and I can probably watch a stream on the side.
Content's gonna look good.
Pretty good, pretty good.
Baby, I ain't buying no more dreams. So, what you selling? My pockets got dry from the boat. But if you so for real, you could get it wet. But not too much. Don't wanna drown a flame, keep that fire lit. Breathe life into it. Now we own my place, always stays true. I won't give my body to nobody new. Can you believe that we could be forever in heat? If you get me till we 6 feet under stress, or if it's all sweet, just hold me down deep. We won't burn out. Here with me, we could be always in heat. My loving, show me devotion I could trust in it. Just don't rush, baby. Ignite my desire for your loving. Slow burn till time combustion. Baby, I'ma need a R&B love from the 90s. Tell me how you would die without me. Spin, move in the rain, drop to your knees. Passion on Venus, never kill the flame, keep that fire lit. Show me why you deserve it. Now we own my place, always stays true. I won't give my body to nobody new. Can you believe that we could be forever in heat? If you get me till we 6 feet under stress, or if it's all sweet, just hold me down deep. We won't burn out. Here with me, we could be always in heat. Always, 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 always. Yeah. That easy bake can make her never wanna leave, so we stay always in. Tell him no, 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 no. Tell him no, 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 no. You've been trying to cater to all their needs. You've been feeling guilty for so long. Baby, they're not friends, they are enemies. Don't you tell them yes, tell them get lost. 'Cause every time you go and ask for help, they say sorry, but I'm busy. So you end up doing it yourself. Ooh, hold up, baby, don't take it. It ain't friendship if they just fake it. You don't need to put up with their bullshit. Tell them no, 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 no. Hold up, baby, don't stress it. It ain't worth it, you won't miss it. You don't need to put up with their bullshit. Tell them no, 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 no. They don't have respect for your boundaries. Girl, you hit too close to the edge now. Only thing they got is toxicity. Think you need a cleanse, clear the out. You got their backs, but they ain't got yours. You've done enough, but they still want more. You've been a good friend down to the core.
Well, the Dragons make it work here in game number 1. And Mifflin, it's the two sides of the map, I think, we get to see pop off incredibly. We get to see really good performance, I would argue, out of fineokay there. The Achilles pops off. The Pele has some really good play. I'm going to give a shout out to Discordia for her passive, because I think that plays a good role for this team.
Gotta be why we're picking it.
But man, Heimdall and PandaCat just had a day. Like it just feels like everything was lined up for him. A lot of good moments, sometimes solos, sometimes in team fights, but still usually able to get the better end of those trades.
Yeah, it just felt like he was so safe in that backline, PandaCat, huh? I mean, every time the dive came through, he had an answer. If the beads were up, he was using that. Otherwise, Bifrost was always nearby, CC immune ultimate. So the dive being telegraphed from the Oni Warriors, I think, was one of the weaknesses of this composition. Felt like QvoFred was a bit mitigated in his own efficacy. A lot of those shooter evils, even when they were connecting, he just didn't have the damage output to make a real threat out of it. I mean, even on that last Phoenix Siege, we saw fineokay walk in and say, hey, I'm simply too tanky, and I, for some reason, do way more damage than you as well. So takes the 1v1 up against Qvo. And the Hunbots just wasn't quite able to make the waves that I was expecting. The double Hunbots transformations weren't as often as I'd expected either. But I think that is due in large part to the early game pacing of this match. Had the Oni Warriors made it to that 20-25 minute mark from an even state, maybe this draft looks a bit better. But because the Jade Dragons are getting so active from so early on, they build such a massive lead. Even with Screammmmm trading out his own life, he was always putting somebody ahead. Sure, I think at one point he was like 1-4, 2-4 on this Pele, and I look over and I'm like, oh, PandaCat's 6-0. That's why. That's why he's dropped so many of these deaths. It's because he was doing something for his team, just active across the board. Screammmmm seems to fit the Jade Dragons playstyle very, very well.
Yeah, man. Look, you're talking about a guy who wasn't on this team 3 weeks ago. It is impressive to see what they've been able to do and how they've been able to make these changes. 6-4-7 ends that pretty well. 6-1-3 for PandaCat. And then a perfect game for PBM and fineokay, both going deathless, getting a couple kills, and a good chunk of assists between them. And you know, it goes into it. So earlier we were talking about how, you know, you've got to deal with this Khepri if you're playing up against them. They managed to do that. 30,000, holy. Oh my God, 30,000 damage, 10,000, 11,000 damage more than the next highest in the game. Never mind. I think the Achilles, look, you get him out of the jungle, he's got a thumbs up from me.
Look, fineokay doesn't have a god pool. He's got a god style. He wants to play bullies. If you can classify any individual soul laner as a lane bully, fineokay is going to play it. He's going to do a whole lot of damage. He's going to get into your backline. He's going to make it work. Ban is King Arthur. He'll go to the Kakao and he'll make it work. Ban both. Fall back to the Achilles. He'll make it work. This guy is very adaptable, and he's been one of the most constant members of the Jade Dragons, a constant pillar of aggression and consistency, and one that I think the Jade Dragons will always be able to rely on.
He's going to take your lunch money. He's going to pull a Mifflin and stuff you in a
locker.
locker.
Time, and I didn't start that fight, okay?
But you ended it for sure.
Fair enough. I let him out.
Okay, well, I didn't really care, if I'm going to be honest with you. I'm assuming you had a good reason for it. I didn't think you just did it for the sake of doing it.
I'm a nice guy.
You could also have convinced me that it was like, yeah, we wanted to experiment to see if you could actually shove someone in a locker.
Yeah, it was for science.
Yeah, see, it was science, chat. Come on. Mifflin's not a bully. And never once has he pinned me up on the wall by the collar of my shirt and threatened to take my lunch money. That's a true statement. It's just a true.
It is a true statement. I have never once done that.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah. I was going to say I don't think you've ever tried to pick me up, which is where I was going to, and I couldn't think of a reason why you would want to. Either way, we're in picks and bans for game number 2, and you had mentioned it. Trying to take away maybe the bully away from fineokay. They ban out the King Arthur, Discordia Nemesis. That's what the Warriors get rid of. They're your second pick. Whereas the Dragons from first pick ban out Daji, Amus and Cobb, and the Morrigan. And Mifflin, Eset's been banned a ton over the last few days.
No one can
Finally, she
extinguish
makes
my
it through.
flame.
The Dragons think she's worthy of first pick.
I mean, Eset is always going to bring an answer to your early game aggression, right? Like something that we say for some of these teams is, okay, they got the kills, but what are they going to do afterward? Eset answers that question for you. I'm going to go to the Gold Fear and I'm going to drop Circle Protection and I'm going to outconfirm anybody that shows up. So that opens up that avenue to the Jade Dragons to leverage their early game aggression into tangible gold and experience leads. So Eset, I think, one that should fit their style very well. And even if you're not able to get to those objectives early on, she still is one of the more aggressive mages if you take her into mid. Spirit Ball from downtown, great CC lockdown, phenomenal burst potential, good chase down with the Wing Gust. So one that I expect to see from the Jade Dragons pretty consistently. What I wasn't expecting was the Oni Warriors to utilize their first 2 picks essentially as 2 more bans up against the Jade Dragons. Khepri and Pele, staples of these Dragons drafts.
Yeah.
Well, now taken. We'll see whether or not the Oni Warriors can pilot it as well.
And I was going to make a remark about it, the Achilles over the Cucullin. Something we saw the King Arthur one taken away from fineokay. You had mentioned it, but why not then just go to what he just straight up called the budget King Arthur. But instead, you get this Achilles better into the Khepri, right? If you're playing it in solo lane, you had already highlighted it. We just watched it. Playstyle can stay roughly similar in lane, and then late game you get executes. So it feels like you're going to have some moments there. Poseidon locked in as the final top 3 for the Warriors. One that maybe I wouldn't have expected so high up. Would expect from the Warriors, though. They've been playing a lot. Oddly enough, and I feel like this is going to need to be mentioned because we don't know what they're going to lock in, but it feels like it almost goes hand in hand with Vote more often than not than going to Dardez. They tend to throw Dardez onto a Hunter here when they pick up the Poseidon.
Yeah, and I think I would, depending on where this Eset is, I want the Poseidon away from him. So if it's Eset mid, let's give over the Poseidon to Vote. If it's Eset support, let's keep that Poseidon in mid, because it almost forces the Eset, that is, the Poseidon, to pick up a Divine Ruin, because every time that Kraken gets dropped, you're just going to drop Circle Protection on your feet, get that damage mitigation online and available, mitigate a good deal of that ultimate from Poseidon, and then immediately heal yourself right afterward, right?
Yeah.
It is so hard to deal with for Poseidon, that exact matchup.
Fall before
Unless you've got Divine Ruin, then you're getting a little bit more value. But it feels like a lot of these mid laners have been straying away from that item because there's so many other items that are so core to the build right now. Book of Thoth, Warlock Staff, Staff of Mirrodin. Mages are suffering from success. They just have way too many items that are real good.
So imagine a world where you confidently ban away a Fenrir, the Naja's gone, the Ratatosker's gone, Daji, Nemesis, all gone. You're thinking, where's Scream gonna go? And he still locks in a Tsukuyomi, and something that, while nobody else has really been playing it over the last few weeks, when it was on the Scarabs of the Dragons, he's been bringing it back. He's been looking good at it. And how the mighty have fallen for just this set. Cupid, last pick of the game, but picked up there for the Warriors. And most notably, not something that we tend to see, at least again on this squad, locked in alongside the Poseidon. So this feels like it might be a Poseidon mid. Even though Cupid, can he flex enough? Can he go mid if they really wanted him to?
I mean, the weakness of Cupid mid previously was that Heart Bomb just didn't have the wave clear that you needed to take into mid. So now that that's been buffed so significantly and so continually over the last couple of months, maybe Cupid mid could work.
Yeah.
Would I like to see it there? No. Not really.
Yeah, just straight up no.
Yeah, I mean, like, Cupid works so well in the duo lane and has so much aggression when matched up with the support that I think probably just fits there a little bit better. But to answer your question, yeah, it could.
Could. Shouldn't. Could.
Yeah.
So I guess here's the one to weigh for you. Is Cupid in mid worse than Poseidon's matchup into Eset?
Cupid in mid worse than Poseidon's
because
matchup into Eset?
Yeah, if Poseidon's going mid, he's got to deal with the Eset.
So you're asking if Cupid's better into Eset or is Poseidon better into Eset?
Yeah, that's the way better way to word what I said.
Yeah, I think that Cupid into Eset, probably a little bit better. Anytime that Wing Gust goes down, just drop Fields of Love. So yeah, maybe Cupid mid. Maybe Cupid. You know what? Cupid mid.
We're gonna get into game. It's just gonna be Vote playing it, and it's not gonna be anything interesting. But we gotta look at it and see what could possibly happen for him. Instead, we'll ignore that. We're gonna focus in, I think, over here. We got a Yemoja Ho-Yi locked in for the Dragons. And look, Mike's played a ton of Yemoja. I don't know that we need to go super in depth on that one, but the Ho-Yi has been slowly returning. He's not like top of anything at this point, but he's been hanging out with the rest of the Hunters, all right? He at least got invited to the party this time around, and he's been doing a lot better than Phase 3. Phase 3 last year it was abysmal for him, but this time around, he's been winning those boxing matches.
Yeah, and I like what Ho-Yi brings to this composition from the Jade Dragons. You don't have standard AoE initiation, so you don't have standard AoE space control.
Yeah.
Hoyi's ultimate, no play zone. I don't want to stand in some raining suns exploding on my head, so I'm going to go ahead and avoid that massive circle, which will create space for the Tsukuyomi to start moving forward, or for the Hoyi himself. So I like how it fits into this draft, and just in general, I think Hoyi maybe not as good as his win rate might indicate.
They've got the Suns for a massive circle. They got Circle of Protection. They got the Yemoja. Oh, they got a lot of denial of area of play here for the Dragons. We'll see how well they use it. Once again, we're going down to J-Mac and Trelly because it's game number 2.
Yeah, game number 2, the Jade Dragons. A little bit of a slow start in game number 1, but able to rally back together and find themselves a victory. Can they do it again 2 straight games? We'll have to see, because the Oni Warriors have picked quite a lot of what worked for the Dragons in game number 1, Trelly. And you have the Lancelot that was doing, well, the Lancelot wasn't a part of that one, but you have the Pele, the Khepri. Those are 2 big picks that work so decently throughout there, especially Screammmmm on that Pele. Now NeilMah gets another chance to run this Khepri back. But the Jade Dragons, as mentioned by the desk, have so many big picks, so much area denial available to themselves.
I'm just sad we didn't get to see the Cupid mid, man. Myth sold
I
me
know,
on it.
I was ready, but unfortunately, Vote's just going to be boring.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that, like, you know, Cupid doesn't have the best wave clear, and you're up against an Eset who clears the wave quickly, but, you know, Cupid mid. I mean, that was the idea that I was waiting for.
Cupid mid could be fun, maybe. I don't know.
PBM stole purple. Look at him waddle away. He's got the Invader's Curse, but did deny the Oni Warriors duo lane, and unfortunately for Vote, because that Cupid's not in mid, you didn't get here in time, and you're not going to get your purple buff.
Yeah, you're not gonna have a buff for yourself. PBM will eat a Heart Bomb stun. And now we'll slow down Vote. Beads away from the Cupid. So PBM not only steals a buff, but steals a relic away from the Oni Warriors. Another stun onto Vote, but he's not going to be able to get too much more pressure there. PandaCat having to deal with minion wave.
Yeah, so I think the pressure is already here in duo lane for Mike and PandaCat. Since they both have purple buffs, attacking so quickly at the wave, but the 2v2 for the totem seems to be going in favor of the Oni Warriors. Scream getting low.
I was hoping we would see more, maybe see a first blood go down, but maybe it's back in the dual lane against Neil this time. PandaCat hit by the Heart Bomb. Beads burn because of the threat of the stun. But luckily for PandaCat, has enough of those potions ticking up. And he's not going to go down. Tried for the cheeky triple bounce, but not going to find it there.
Yeah, I was wondering if the Beads was going to come through. PandaCat didn't want to gamble on if that was a stun or not, and decided to go for the Beads anyways. That could have been dangerous. And also, Neil was quite low. One tricky bounce before the HP5 ticked in, and the health pots might have been disastrous, but not going to be the case. And now we're just seeing more of a brawl at the tower line of the Oni Warriors, because Jade Dragons do a fair bit of pressure in that lane. Pegon forced the Beads, and he's stuck.
From Pegon, can't find it. To the tower, QvoFred.
Fist bump,
and
baby.
Some good body blocks by Dardez. Make sure that Pegon gets put down for first blood. The Oni Warriors able to strike early.
You know, this is a running gag that me and Dave have been talking about. Wherever we see Qvo make a good play, he always does a fist bump in the middle of a team fight. But he's been getting more and more reckless about where he gives them. He's at the tower line there and still taking his hand off the mouse and giving a fist bump, making sure that the team's morale is high. First blood going over towards the Pele. So Qvo gonna be have a decent bit of gold ahead of Scream in this matchup as is. And it looks like Scream going towards a different style of start, the Transcendent start. That just means less damage in the early game. That'll translate to more damage later on.
That gives Pegon a nice deficit to go into up against Dardez, who should be able to hit that level 5 first. And that Aegis was used prior, which means Kraken is a very relevant topic of conversation for Dardez and QvoFred to combo with, to maybe kill this mid laner. It's going to be a little over a minute 40 before those come back up, and it's definitely going to be less time until we see level 5s hit by the jungle and mid of the Oni Warriors. I imagine once Dardez hits that, he's going to want to fire that off. But Pegon just a little too far into the tower to make that commitment.
Yeah, I think Pegon knows, hey, that there's probably a Kraken coming through. I need to make sure that my safety is key here because of the fact that I lost access to that Aegis. So much healing in this duo lane. I don't think a kill is ever going to come through until level 5 throws around. I mean, you just have the hearts, the candy corn, if you will, from Vote, and then the healing from the Yemoja from PBM. It's just not too much aggression coming through up until level 5. The Suns and Fields of Love, that's when we can actually see some brawling. I'm keeping my eyes on QvoFred, however, because he is not the green buff on the left side of the map. Got access to Volcanic Lightning and has the Blink available. With that first blood bounty, I do expect him to try and use that influence on the rest of the map, but it looks like just purchase the Chalice of Healing instead. That's that first blood gold, essentially. That's paid for. So now a little bit of extra healing, a little bit of sustain, and you're not missing out of too much DPS with that item.
There's a Cuvo, level 5 for the jungler, but a silence goes through. Pegon may have just single-handedly stopped that entire engagement from the Oni Warriors to slow them down. And by himself, at a little bit of extra time until that Aegis comes back up. 30 more seconds until he has that defensive tool. Dardez and Cuvo wanted to see if they would step through the jungle. The Jade Dragons a little bit too privy to the rotation through from the Oni Warriors. So they'll get to live on, not have to waste any of their relics.
Yeah, I like the play, though. If you can use that Volcanic Lightning to get close enough, hit the knock-up, Kraken's all but confirmed, and Scream should be going down. Nika is going for the buff, but it looks like fineokay is able to confirm that one and still get incredibly aggressive on this Achilles. Top damage in the game by a wide margin last time around. fineokay is not one to shy away from the brawling. Has this Soul Eater as well, and he's going in.
And against 3 people, no less, Dardez will eat the stun from Fino. So Dardez will instead just go
Dardez
back
said,
to
if
the
you're
totem.
not getting the totem, I'm coming over and grabbing it.
He said somebody is going to get the... He didn't even get it!
He didn't even finish it!
He just left it there. fineokay could take it if he wants to. I mean, it takes one hit from Nika to grab that there. I can't believe... he was 1 auto away, Dardez. Why'd you just leave it there?
You could tell Dardez was like, I need my MP5. Have you ever seen that copy pasta where it's like, if my team and the Totem of Ku are both dying and I can only save one, catch me at my team's funeral with increased MP5.
Yeah, I see that one.
That's Dardez just beelining for the totem. He doesn't care about anything else. Unfortunately, not going to be confirmed, but Scream is going for the wraparound here, and PBM's on the way.
Feed's gone from Dardez. Scream should be able to close this one out by himself, but a revive from NeilMah, re-engaged by Scream, gets a good stun, but not enough damage for the kill. Maybe Mike can find something as Dardez is stunned out under the rivers. They will crash through, and the better Water God will get the kill there. PBM finds the kill for the Dragons.
Yeah, what a great rotation from Neil to save Dardez. Unfortunately, PBM was ready for the Rivers Rebuke to catch that one and got credit for the kill as well. Dardez got the Kraken down, but it was just not enough damage to confirm the kill by themselves, and PBM gets the waltz out of that one. So, tied up the kills, gold lead still a bit in favor of the Oni Warriors. I think mostly off the back of the jungle QvoFred is pretty much all of that 400 gold lead just off the first blood bounty alone, and a level lead as well in that jungle. But besides that, not too much action, just a little bit of an invade. Cuvo and Nika make the rotation over, but I think too close to this tower line as well as Eset, extremely survivable. Pegon's not going to be in any more danger.
Scream is really testing.
Oh yeah.
QvoFred. I mean, Cuvo keeps walking up, tries to find a shot, and then Scream backs away. And Cuvo, they are both just itching for that moment they can pull the trigger against each other, but with both ultimates down, unlikely to really see any action going there. Instead, we sit at a 1-1, 7 minutes in. The Jade Dragons and the Oni Warriors essentially tied this early on in the game. Dardez level 7 on this Poseidon has not opted towards the Warlock staff like Pegon has, instead opted to get the Doom Orb early on.
Yeah, Dardez wants to zoom around. This is sort of a different style of build because the Bumba's Hammer build was so popular. It was Bumba's into the Doom Orb, you know, Toxic Blade, that sort of thing. But now, with the nerfed Bumba's Hammer, Sands of Time seems to be the way to building this Poseidon in the mid lane. But the zooming, you still want to be moving fast. You still want a fair bit of auto attack damage. And some extra CDR for Trident is never going to hurt. You know, zooming around the map seems to be the play here. Dardez is going to be able to do a ton of damage with the red buff and the Doom Orb. PBM zooms out of trouble, but could be in just a little bit more, but Neil, a little bit off the mark on the abduct.
Just shy. Stun is there for PBM. He keeps walking back in again. Walking in, trying to dangle himself a dollar bill on the end of the fishing line to see if they can grab anybody in. Boat finds a couple with his ultimate. Only PBM going to suffer the main fate as Cuvo bats away at Pegon's health. QvoFred finds a kill. Kraken slams PBM. But QvoFred gonna get the revive in. Piercing Moonlight from Scream helps close out one kill. Stun is good on the QvoFred and the Shuriken after. Scream finds the double kill. Can he make it out of the fight? Vote can't land the last auto while PandaCat gets one.
Vote, you gotta clean this
zones
up.
Him out, no shot that Scream makes it out. A 2-for-3 trade for the Dragons.
That is absurd. PandaCat finds a massive bounce to clean that kill up, and then Vote, unfortunately, just has no way to chase down Scream. The slow from the Caltrops was a little bit too much, and Cupid, the heart bomb doesn't go through walls, so you're not cleaning that one up. Beautiful play to confirm that kill. And the second I saw Piercing Moon, I'm like, oh, Scream's trading 1 for 1. And then he gets the second kill, I'm like, okay, so 2 for 1. Then he gets 2-0 and gets out. That's insane. So much damage and just a well-timed ult. And again, PandaCat making sure that that kill does go through as well. Keep Scream alive. Unfortunate. The gold lead in favor of the Jade Dragons, about 700 now, and the kill lead as well, 4-3. But Neil still feeling confident to go for the obelisk. This is going to be a long chase down for Scream, but I think Neil's gone.
Well, with PBM and PandaCat in the way, NeilMah should not make it out of this team fight until they give the kill to Scream for a killing spree on the Jade Dragons to punish NeilMah for stepping forward. But
they got the trebuchet.
Consolation, they get the trebuchet at the very least. fineokay doesn't get a blue buff, but he's more than happy to take the fight up against the double assassin of the Oni Warriors. Health bar in favor of Nika at the least, but fineokay has been no stranger to going for these early brawls.
Yeah, fineokay would love to go for the fight, but the Jade Dragons would love to go for this Gold Fury. They realize that Boat's here, and now PandaCat just jumps in onto Dardez.
Chrissy Moonlight one hit did catch Dardez. Scream gets Kraken, gets tidal waved out, but he's slowed to oblivion. And PandaCat picks up the kill. 6 on the board for the Jade Dragons. QvoFred doesn't have a line to get in. PandaCat just off the mark with 2 of those 3 bounces to find the stun. But with 1 pick, the Dragons can go back to the left side of the map.
Yeah, still just looking to get aggressive. The Jade Dragons are not done with this brawl. PBM is wrapping around, finds a beautiful Rivers of Buke.
Vote can find his way out, but NeilMah not so fortunate. Body block by PBM, double bounce by PandaCat. Scream gets Vote. NeilMah does not make it out. It's a dunk in by Panda. 3 for him, 4 for Scream to start this game out, and QvoFred, the lone wolf on the left side.
Qvo did grab the oracles though, so some vision on this objective might be key here. Nika riding onto the horse and will certainly get here in time. It's all about when you go in. They have 2 members, but already fineokay's found them out.
Unfortunately, Pegon is a damage Eset. This Gold Fury is as good as gone. The Jade Dragons pick up an objective along with a few kills during that last fight. 2,400 gold and nearly 4,000 experience up for the Order side team. A much quicker pace than we saw in Game 1, Trelly.
Yeah, no doubt. The Gold Fury going down before Pyromancer is not something we saw in Game number 1, but I think just off the back of all-out aggression, not only from the Jade Dragons, and the Oni Warriors have also been trying to get aggressive when possible, but unfortunately for the Warriors, the Jade Dragons have been winning those engagements, and that's why they have the ability to pull these objectives like they have been. Looks like Mike could be looking at a Pyromancer here after the Greater Scorpion goes down, but given the fact that not too much vision is here and Pegon's on a red buff, I don't think too much will be coming from it. It looked like the trebuchet that Neil got is marching down left side, but unless Vote is looking to get aggressive here, isn't going to get too much value up against the level 12 Hou-Yi that is PandaCat.
PandaCat does hold on to his ult for now. As long as there's a couple of minions there, this trebuchet will keep hitting the health bar of that tier 1 tower. PandaCat hasn't stepped too far up to try and deal with it, and with NeilMah standing by, though it's only a level 7 Khepri at this point, NeilMah has not gotten to be much of an impact for his team on the map. Definitely been a big impact for the Jade Dragons, and then going to be picked up 3 times by that team.
Being a gold supply for the
exactly,
team.
Being a golden XP sponge for the Dragons, a means of eliminating a player off the map consistently. For the Oni Warriors, that trebuchet will not take down the tier 1 tower. So what's an avenue for the Oni Warriors to get back in this game? Is it a fight around the Pyro, some kind of gold sponge in that instance?
I still think they have the ability to find some isolated picks. QvoFred, level 12, 2-in-1 on this Pele, does a fair bit of damage. As long as the Kraken is able to connect as well, they are not out of an actual group up at a team fight. But Scream found Dardez already, and inside the rivers is Dardez.
Double walls, the Riptides, Dardez will not go down yet, but he will go down to the double execute from fineokay. The Jade Dragons have created the ultimate no-play zone at the top side of the Pyromancer pit. Not only will they find 2 kills, they'll grab a Pyro of their own, push that gold lead up, getting closer to that 4K barrier, and the Oni Warriors just cannot find a break in these team fights, Trelly.
Yeah, there's no safety on the map. The one Phantom Shell that is had by NeilMah is, even when it is used, it's not enough to get you away from the damage dealers. fineokay with a beautiful double execute there. Seemed like with the first Fatal Strike was actually going for Dardez, but Neil just got into Threshold anyways, and then Rez right in front of him at Threshold once again. QvoFred forced to hold out because of how much damage is coming from not only Pegon, but Scream as well. I mean, it's going to be a steep hill to climb Unfortunately for Nika, because your opposition, fineokay, rotated out, found 2 kills, and then came back, also sitting about a level lead in the solo lane. So I think if you're the Oni Warriors, you got to look for some safe farm whenever possible, not try to force too many fights, and trust and hope that Neil's able to revive anyone that's out of position, because this is going to be a long-winded comeback. With Circle of Protection on the board, it's not even like you can pray for a Kraken steal. You can pray for Pegon messing up, but you're going to have to put the Jade Dragons in an uncomfortable position to come back from this one.
Now remember, for the folks at home at least, that losing this set isn't the end of the tournament line for either of these two teams. They'll still have one more day of promotional / elimination matches that are going to be going on tomorrow. So if the Oni Warriors can't pull out a game number 2 against the Dragons will move on to the second week of play, and the Oni Warriors will be able to fight one more time against one of the SCC teams to see if they can continue to keep their hopes alive for week 2 of Masters. With the pacing that the Jade Dragons have, they are poised at the moment to be the 3rd team of the day to advance on to week number 2. PBM trying to catch QvoFred. Scream is here. 3 members of the Dragons will be enough of a threat to force out 2 ultimates. Not just QvoFred's, but Dardez expended as well.
Yeah, dropping the Kraken and the Volcanic Lightning to escape does not bode well, but the Jade Dragons are only fighting over essentially a tier 1 tower. There's no minions left to really go for a push, so they are calling it off. That Oni Fury that's spawning in here in about 35 seconds, that's going to be the target that the Oni Warriors really have to try and fight over. I don't think that using those ultimates defensively there is going to be too bad at all. You're just trying to make sure that you have a full 5v5 for this objective. You want to make sure no one's getting picked at this time and no one's wasting any relics beforehand. So I think a smart call. And now it's all about praying that Nika can get over there in time. You get a nice team fight. You're able to CC Pegon before a perfect circle of protection gets dropped. But the way that Mike's been playing, able to constantly find out a few members of the Warriors with this River's Rebuke, it's going to be tough, no doubt. You're going to be dissuaded from grouping up. You don't want your whole team stuck in between those walls.
And Charlie, just to maybe paint a picture for those at home to see where this lead is, we may have to hold that. At least for now, Oni Fury started up by the Warriors.
They got
should
this.
Be able to take down unless PBM can get a cheeky steal from max range. He will not, but he will catch NeilMah out. No further follow-up onto Neil at the moment. Scream is here. Slow is good. Scream trying to close in that gap to see if he can capitalize off of PBM's efforts. He will not, at least for the time being. PBM stunned out.
fineokay's not here.
Spirit Ball slams into NeilMah. QvoFred gets some good damage up in the back line, but PandaCat has even more, as Circle Protection was there to take him down. Scream finds 1, Scream finds 2. With the help of Pegon, boat goes down. It's a double kill for the jungler. And Dardez and the Dragons, with 4 versus 5, are able to route through and take down almost every one of the Oni Warriors. And the tower will take down the last of Dardez' health bar. Not going to give a fit to the Dragons, but fineokay wasn't a part of that fight at all, Charlie.
fineokay was farming, bro. That was a 4v5. The Oni Warriors wanted to take it, but after the Oni Fury gets dropped, that's your dub. Just get out. I mean, I saw Qvo's face cam. I saw how surprised he was when that Circle of Protection one-shot him. But after that, just get out. The Oni Warriors, feeling extremely confident, forgot about the gold deficit they were under. Maybe the fact that fineokay was still in right was enough to amp them up to go for a call like that. But I'm thinking that free Oni Fury is as free as they come. I am retreating, I am going to base, and I'm not stepping out until I see that Pyromancer spawn back in. Major misplay, and credit to the Jade Dragons. They knew that they could win that fight 4v5 handedly, and they did. Now the Jade Dragons have up about 6k gold, and that Pyromancer spawning in here shortly.
I imagine at that point, you just sack NeilMah for that. You say, we got the Fury, you're 0-4, you're not worth anything golden XP wise to the enemy team at this point. What's a 15-second respawn for you at this point
And
of the
Neil
game?
had Phantom Shell. He could have just used it and escaped, but he was like, I'm going to be greedy and go for this.
Oh no, QvoFred will go away. The Kraken slightly off the mark, so Protection doesn't get the kill. Scream low, but now that fineokay has rotated over, talk about a story here. A level 18 Achilles versus a level 10 Khepri.
Oh.
There is not much that NeilMah can do to defend this tier 1 tower. But look where Vote has been this whole time. All this fighting happening in the mid lane, and Vote has been split pushing the left side tier 1 and gets about half of the tier 2.
If fineokay turns on the farming jets, he may be able to double NeilMah's level as this game continues. Nika might be in a little bit of trouble here. Does have access to the ultimate. Maybe doesn't realize it's being wrapped around and chooses the perfect way to go, but Piercing Moonlight's going to chase him down.
Moonlight will get through. PandaCat jumps over the wall. Oh. And the execute not even necessary from fineokay. Just a stylish dash to go right over the corpse of the solo laner, his opposition.
Vote still has not left this lane.
Vote didn't leave. And the Jade Dragons will be fine with taking that kind of a trade for now. Vote's going to take a long time before he can get this Phoenix. But wrapping around the back is Qvo and Dardez. The Kraken is not available for Dardez just yet, but neither was the other for Pegon. It was used a little too early. Qvo picks up one, and the Jade Dragons are going to stick to the Fire Giant. Kraken is back up, but Dardez is too far away. Dragons will trade out 1 life for 4, or at least for 4 to get the fire. But if Vote gets this Phoenix, that could be a big win for the Warriors.
Yeah, it looks like Vote will be able to grab the bird and get out safely. fineokay showing up, but a little too late. I think the Jade Dragons were definitely confident they could burn down that Fire Giant. And because Dardez was a little bit scared to go in, definitely goes in their favor. However, what the Oni Warriors have done here is opened up a possible win condition. If they get a decent wipe, if they win a fight too hard, at this point in the game, now the base is broken. There are fire minions going through the left side of the map, and they would be able to make an end call off a play like that. Looking at the XP differences, though, not too long of a respawn. This is a very early on to get a Phoenix like that, 20 minutes in still. If you're winning a fight at your Titan, the respawns will already be up by the time you march down the base. But it's still a win for the Oni Warriors to have that bird down. Now you have to defend up against 4 members of the Jade Dragons with Fire Giant. fineokay and PandaCat are already on this left side of the map, ready to push down this tier 2. And NeilMah and Vote are here. I don't think they have to be too afraid. Remember, there are fire minions pushing down their side for a reason. You can see the rest of the Jade Dragons aren't quite grouped yet. Scream currently in base. And it looks like Pegon and PBM just invading a red buff. So Oni Warriors smart to just bide their time here. 6k gold down. Once these towers follow, that's going to climb up a bit more.
So still 2 towers left standing if the Jade Dragons want to collapse there. But it's the 1v1 of the Assassins in the mid lane. This one might just go over to Scream. Ultimate used by both, but Scream's damage and his numbers are just too much for QvoFred. 1 gone from the Oni Warriors. And that's the call for the Dragons to instead move over to the tier 2 tower in the mid lane. They'll have to come back for that left side Phoenix at some point, because there's still going to be those fire minions pushing. But for now, the Dragons will go over to left and deal with that side.
Yeah, it looks like they're going to miss a wave of fire minions, though, so they will have no sort of minions for this push. River's Rebuke is available, which could easily split up this fight. The Warriors do have some great teamfight ults to try and hold this Phoenix, though.
PBM goes in, drops the Rivers, and separates the team fight into multiple parts, and NeilMah is in the worst end of there. He is a quarter HP, a Kraken hits 2, but Pegon's get a big circular protection to go back through, but look at the damage output that Nika has on this Lancelot. Nearly takes down 2 members of the Jade Dragons single-handedly.
So many weak health bars.
Phoenix is going down quickly, but not as fast as the Jade Dragons would hope. Without the minion wave there, they just don't have the push.
That's all they need was to keep that bird alive. They can stall this one up. Too much healing, though. This Phoenix should definitely go down with the healing from PBM. QvoFred back to join the fight, and finally, that bird goes down, just equalizing the pressure that the Oni Warriors already had. But in a little bit longer, that left side Phoenix will spawn back in for the Jade Dragons. So definitely a net win. The power play has netted them about 8,000 gold. So much in favor. It's climbing up to almost 10k. Pretty close. If the Jade Dragons can grab this power fair, but QvoFred's chasing.
He wants another 1v1 against Scream, but he brought backup with his solo laner this time. Scream will go right back in with a piercing moonlight. Nowhere for QvoFred to go. No revive, but it's a 1-for-1. Scream shut down after a 10-kill killing spree out of him. Nika charges forward through 3, but circle protection. Make sure that Pegon and the Dragons stay alive and healthy. They're going to need some extra help. Vote ace in the backline, but Dardez has found a double.
fineokay already got 1 execute. NeilMah's close as well. The wraparound should be enough. And it looks like PBM is trying to get 1 Riptide to catch Dardez, but that's a fast Poseidon who should be out of trouble. Nika's riding away on the horse as well, and that might be it unless, of course, Pegon can try and catch up to this Poseidon. It's going to take some time. And actually, PBM is keeping the pace quite nicely.
fineokay doesn't have his teleport. PBM does catch Dardez and forces him to change directions, this time to go right back to Pegon, who has looped in all of these Riptides from PBM. Spirit Ball, Wing Gust, that's a kill onto the mid. It took a while, but at least for Dardez, he bought time for the Warriors.
Yeah, if Dardez actually took that Riptide and then took it back right lane, might have had an opportunity to get out of trouble there, but the Horrific Emblem did come back up for PBM, and no beads were available. Eventually, I think that Poseidon had to die. Now it's time to look at the map state. Your Phoenix has spawned back in for the Jade Dragons on that left side, but the Oni Warriors are going to be missing that bird for quite some time. Fire Giant should be spawning in here in about 21 seconds, and with that, Dardez will still be dead. So if the Jade Dragons positioning is on point, if they have their vision on this objective when it spawns in, they should be able to go for a pull with a one-man advantage. With Circle of Protection, I don't imagine that that's too much of an ask, but Scream and PandaCat are going to be pulling this Primal Fury, so Dardez should be able to get here toward this objective, towards that Fire Giant, and go for an actual 5v5.
Best chance, and it is a double back from Panda and Scream. They'll have to make their long trek back to that Fire Giant, but Dardez isn't going that way. Instead, Dardez has to deal with the double fire wave that's now pushing up the left lane to make sure that they don't lose out on too much HP of that Titan. It's dire straits now for the Oni Warriors. At this point, Charlie, they try and make one final hoorah over at the Fire Giant, or they just give this one up.
I mean, I think you got to fight for it, given the positioning. You would love to go for just a base defense, but this was a play that could certainly net them a great bit of gold. Unfortunately, Pegon still has Circle Protection, and no one is stepping up. So Dardez is ignoring those minions on left side. They are grouped here, but fineokay's playing zone duty.
Backside, QvoFred, but he gets spotted out by Panda and Scream and is forced to go back to the rest of his team. Kraken even expended during that fight. Scream is almost dead. And a jive in from Nika, but Pegon takes down QvoFred. Nika cannot get the damage onto Scream. Beautiful CC from the carries. Make sure that Nika cannot get the final hit. And the Fields of Love out of vote will zone only a couple members before NeilMah gets dropped down. Double kill for Pegon, Vote, and Dardez. The last two left alive. The silence and the slow is still not enough to keep this Poseidon locked down.
Yeah, Dardez is going to be able to zoom out of there, but fire minions pouring into the base and soon to be that left side Phoenix. We got some low health bars here, but no ultimates available to try and defend this base. The mid Phoenix is going to be on the table first, and with some healing from Mike, they could go for the end. No, they're backing up.
So,
they're backing up.
With no ultimates available, Pegon still about another 15 or so seconds till it is back. The Jade Dragons do not want to commit to a fight in the throne room. And with that, they will leave. Not even, I can't even say with the prize of the Fire Giant because they didn't go for it. They just got the fight. Maybe both can be the prize they need. Another crack into the backline by Dardez does find one, but it's a 1-for-1 trade as he takes down the jungler yet again.
Yeah, Scream was the bait that whole time. Gets so low. We didn't get to see the full fight, but Cubo and Dardez were able to find Scream just getting out with such low HP. Now Nika trying to make sure that fineokay gets stopped, but I don't think that's enough to confirm a kill with that speed buff around his waist. Now it's time for QvoFred to push out those fire minions in left because the bird did respawn, and it looks like Vote should be able to take care of those fire minions in mid as well. The Jade Dragons did win that fight, but they weren't able to grab the Fire Giant. It was just that mid Phoenix. Given the positioning of all the Oni Warriors, if the pull comes right now, it's only Nika and NeilMah up to defend, and Pegon's already back with Circle Protection shortly off cooldown.
Nika, NeilMah, can they do it? Do they have the damage to hold the Jade Dragons off until Vote and Cuvo are able to get back in? Fire Giant already started by the Dragons. Nika level 19 on the Lancelot. Gonna have to do everything as the Suns rain through. Pegon drops an ult, and the Fire Giant should go to the Jade Dragons, and it will do so. Nika to the backline to try and fight PandaCat, but a Spirit Ball will stop him in his tracks. QvoFred goes down. The execute from fineokay gets the double kill, just off the mark for the triple, but PandaCat will make sure and close that one out. NeilMah goes down. It is only Dardez left against the entirety of the Jade Dragons. He will hide in the camp, but he will not be able to find the kill. The Jade Dragons can march up the mid, take the game, and take the set 2-0.
Dardez is going for a sneaky Kraken play here, but there is no Aegis available on the side of the Jade Dragon. This is the only line of defense left, and he's going to be spotted out by these minions. And actually, I think Pegon already spotted him out. He's so gone.
No, he walked over a ward, and Dardez is good as dead. A Kraken will end the game for him. Scream picks up the kill. The Jade Dragons find the game. 2-0 for the number 3 seeded SPL team. They will move on to the second week of play, and for the Oni Warriors, Well, they've got to fight a little bit harder to make it there.
Man, 29-8. That is kind of a stomp in favor of the Dragons, but it didn't feel that way. It felt like the Oni Warriors still had some avenues back. They were able to find some picks even in to that massive deficit. But when it came to just play on field, the actual 5v5 stacked up against each other, I mean, PandaCat was doing so much damage. fineokay was consistently able to find single, double executes in these team fights, even with picks here and there, even with a dropped kill from Scream or maybe Pegon. The team as a whole, the Jade Dragons, they didn't falter one bit. They were just standing so tall and were able to take those birds down, even without Fire Giant at points. They were just so far ahead.
So what we've learned, at least from this set, Charlie, is that Achilles jungle, maybe not so great as it was, but Achilles solo, now that's pretty good, at least for fineokay. It makes it work twice for his team in this set. Finds some big multi-kills throughout this game, a couple of double of executes through the early, mid, and the late game through. The Jade Dragons find their 2-0. They move on to week number 2, and we'll move it over to the desk to close the set.
This one, Mifflin feels like it can be synopsized in a very weird way, but fineokay's kind of good at Smite. Scream turns out real good at Smite. Hey, guess what? Pegon? Good at Smite. Mike? He's pretty good at Smite. PandaCat? Well, you'll never guess it. He's pretty good at Smite. I mean, that was just a look. The whole team does well. The whole team's, I mean, their KDAs are nuts. Like, I don't like they kind of mentioned it, but like 28-8 or 29-8, like they just killed better. They won fights better. They played the game incredibly well.
Yeah, I thought you were gonna run with the better right there. They played better.
Well, I should have said that.
That would have been nuts.
Yeah, I would have gone hard.
Would have been mad
Instead,
poetic.
I said what I said.
Hey, and what you said was good, because you were right. They look
it
real
wasn't
good
better,
doing it. Look, the Jade Dragons, and I've said this every single time in the regular seasons when the Jade Dragons get up to their usual shenanigans, which is Jazzberry jamming. These are the hardest games to break down, because once they get rolling, it just about never stops. I looked up once, saw Scream get this double kill right here, limps away while Vote has Benny Hill music in his ears, can't finish off that kill, and I said to myself, man, the Jade Dragons are probably just going to win this game. And then I looked up 10 minutes later, and the Jade Dragons were in a winning condition. This one, it felt like they just had every bit of momentum. Individual pieces that the Oni Warriors needed to land just were mitigated very, very well by this Jade Dragons composition. The majority of Krakens that Dardez decided to drop had a circle protection dropped at the feet of them. So those weren't exactly finding a whole lot of value. Scream was winning 1v1s left and right, so that went real well for the Jade Dragons. And every single lane seemed to have succeeded as well. What do I say about that? Jade Dragons, they owned. They're owners. They pwned even.
A step up, actually, from where it was. Yeah, again, originally I was coming in here and I was like, oh, it's going to be easy. Let's talk about Scream. Scream got a ton of kills. And then I glanced right above him and I saw fineokay was 5-0-4, and I glanced right below and, 5-3-21 for Pegon, 1-2-23 for PBM.
Yeah, pretty good.
And then 6-1-16. I mean, everybody got in on this one. And it was just control from top to bottom. Look, whether it was the Poseidon.
Did you say the 12-2-10?
I didn't say the 12-2-10, but I'll add it. That screams KDA, and it's just because every single aspect of it was phenomenal. 30,000 again. That's 60 total thousand, by the way, in 2 games.
In about an hour of in-game time.
Yeah, for fineokay, that's
1,000 a minute
to put out. This time though, some people are a little closer, right? You got a 26K. And then a 23K. So, it wasn't 11,000 damage over. But still, the Achilles seemed to work out incredibly well out of the solo lane.
Hey, you got him off to King Arthur. Congratulations. It didn't work.
Here's your prize. He's no longer on King Arthur. Yeah, a phenomenal game from the Dragons there, top to bottom. In fact, you don't even have to hear it from me. You can hear it from them themselves. We got fineokay and Scream standing by for an interview.
Yeah, we got Trelly here standing by with fineokay and Scream after that set they just played, looking so good. fineokay, I'm going to start with you. The Achilles jungle has been a bit of a joke here on the desk for us because it hasn't been performing too well, but the Achilles solo is looking a little bit different. Was that just a Khepri counter pick, or do you think that's got some real wings?
Definitely stronger into Khepri, and Khepri's just one of the meta picks right now, so that kind of makes the character just more viable. But when you have the Superman build, you can play a lot of different things. Just ask Sprack. But yeah, I think he's pretty good right now. Maybe budget King Arthur number 3 or something like that.
Okay, so we can call him even budget or King Arthur, but still pretty solid. Scream, I'm coming to you. I just casted that game, and I'm gonna let you in on a secret. All right, I'm gonna ask you this question. I'm gonna phrase it this way. When you went in
and you ulted in about 2 HP. And PandaCat got like a double bounce, saved you, but then you and Vote just did the ring around the rosy. When you ulted in, were you thinking you're trading, or you knew you were living?
I thought we were gonna kill 2 of them at least. So I mean, you know, I'm always down to trade for kills. That's just what I've been doing lately. But yeah, the ring around the rosy, I think even in comms I was like, dude, this guy's never gonna kill me. And then he just gave up, and I was like, all right, I guess I'm out. And
yeah, I thought at best you were trading 1 for 1, but definitely was able to get out there. fineokay, last question. You guys are looking real confident. Are you guys the best team in the league?
Yes.
There you go. That's all. You heard it from them first. I just wanted confirmation there. We're going to throw it back to the desk.
Right out of his own mouth. He's the #1 team in the league right now, the Dragons. And look, the thing I actually got out of that more, Mifflin, is that Scream, look, you don't get to the top of the kills list and the top of the deaths column unless you're going in team. And look,
he's so cool.
He just jumps in there. And you know what? I don't think anything has personified Scream's jungle style more than just the sentence, yeah, I'm willing to trade. So, always fun to see. The Dragons, though, move on to next week and become one of the first 4 teams from today, the 3rd team now, to qualify to week #2 of Masters. Again, that one's going to be an 8-team bracket into semis into finals. The 3rd and 4th place match on the Sunday. Here, we're still trying to figure out who the other teams will be. Warriors, they're going to go down and have a rematch up against the Ravens one more time. So that's 2 at least in a row of matches that these teams are going to have to completely retry. And yesterday, we saw the Ravens step up. We'll see whether or not they're going to be able to give the Warriors a run for their money. Meanwhile, the Dragons coasting into next week.
Yeah, so winner of Warriors versus Highland Ravens gets the opportunity to play against the self-proclaimed best team in the league. and you know what? If they keep playing like they have been, I'm not going to argue against them for too much longer. For now, I'm going to stick with the Camelot Kings, but that's just for now. You know, this new Scream Jade Dragons flavor, it's looking pretty good.
You know, we've got a full week. We don't even know what 8 teams are going to be there. We have 3 of them out of the 8, but we know the Kings are one of them. I'm going to get you. Try to get you on record. Do you think that Kings Dragons, depending on how I don't know how the bracket's going to be laid out, but could you see that as a finals?
I could definitely see that as a finals. The only team that I've got potentially beating them out
Watch that be like a round 1 matchup, by the way.
Oh,
That'd
maybe.
be nuts.
Yeah, Tartarus Titans could get up there for sure.
True. Yeah, it's going to be exciting to watch. And you know what? You can add the Bolts into that list because they've been doing pretty well as of late. I think there's a lot of teams that we've seen this week that, well, I expect a lot out of next week. But of course, that is 3 qualified, 1 more still to go today. Tomorrow goes back. If you want to put a positive spin on tomorrow, which Mifflin won't, tomorrow is still qualifying games.
Elimination day.
But if you want to look at it the right way,
That's
it's
right.
an elimination day. So
That's
some
right.
people, although their tournament hopes will end tomorrow. For right now, though, we're still trying to find the people that are moving on to next week. So the Dragons are up there now with the Bolts and the Kings. And now we're going to find out between the Titans and the Leviathans who